One of the fun things to do every now and then is to look back at your business owning career and ask yourself, if you did it again, what would you do differently? My guest today is a few years into his MSP, and looking back, there are 3 big things he wished he'd done differently. Hey, I'm Paul Green, and don't forget, for help finding new clients for your MSP, we've created an easy-to-follow marketing system. Get that and all the content to go in it at mspmarketingedge.com. Today's big interview is with an MSP owner who wants to share the mistakes he made so you can avoid them.
I'm Alex Harvey and I run Snap IT in Norwich, and I am also a Halo PSA consultant.
And thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, Alex. Now, you and I have known each other for years and years. I think, if I'm right, that you came to an event that I ran in the UK, and this must be pre-COVID, because I haven't done any events since COVID. So we must have known each other for years. What we're going to do in this interview is we're going to look at you and your career, and you're a very young, newish startup. I guess you've been going a few years. We'll find out in a second. What I particularly want to look at is the things you would do differently. So unlike most of our interviews on this podcast, this is for people who are early on in their MSP journey, and you can tell us 3 things you wish you'd done differently if you could do it all again. And then we're going to finish off talking about Halo PSA, because as you said, you are a consultant, and I know you're helping some other MSPs get set up on that PSA. So let's first of all hear your tech background. So before you decided to start your MSP, what was your tech background? What were you doing?
Sure. So I was a contractor for the National Health Service in the UK. I went through the hoops, so first line, second line, and then got up to third line doing network management. And then after then I did some IT manager roles, IT leader roles. And that's kind of my background in IT before I started the MSP just right before COVID.
So that would have been, I guess we would have met then just before you decided to start it, when it was probably going through your head, I got to start my own business. So what was that trigger? What made you have it's called the entrepreneurial seizure. It comes from the book, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, where you get that idea in your head, I've got to start a business. What was your trigger?
So my trigger was I was working for an MSP, and I thought a lot of customer service things they were doing could be done a lot better. I'd always wanted to run my own IT company anyway. My family's quite entrepreneurial. And I had that seizure, as you said, left my contract when it came up and started the business, really. So that's how it all happened.
Fantastic. And those of you who are watching you on YouTube will see that you're about 15 now in age. How old are you actually? Because you do look very young, which was a superpower that I had until I hit about 35, and then the grey hair kind of kicked in then. How old are you now, Alex? And how old were you when you started the business?
So I'm 28 now, and I think I started it when I was about 24, 25-ish. This is my birthday in July, so whenever.
Something around that. And without giving us any kind of figures or anything like that, just in general, how's it gone? So, because those first few years are always really tough years.
Yeah, the first few years were really tough, especially I think launching it right before a pandemic was, a very horrible timing. But I muddied through it, and then now it's really growing strength from strength. We're just officially taking on our first hire, looking at the second hire now as well, and those other different things we're looking at. So it's definitely changed in the few years it's been going.
That's amazing. And that first employee, I think it's one of those watershed moments, isn't it? Where, once it's you and someone else, the whole business changes. Because previously it's all kind of there in your head and there on your laptop. is it a real business, or is it just hiring Alex to do some stuff? And your first hire, great. And now you're moving on to your second hire. That's really good to hear. So let's talk about what you would do differently. So I want you to look back over your short but fairly intense business owning career so far, and look back, and I've asked you to prepare for me 3 things that if you were to do it all again, that you would do differently. So what would the first of those be?
So the first thing I'd do is outsource tasks sooner.
Okay, and give us an idea of what kind of tasks do you mean? Are we talking help desk stuff or just general running the business stuff?
So I think, I held on to a lot of things when I first started. I was quite cost conscious, didn't really want to spend a lot, try and keep it in the business for myself. So what I would have done is definitely get bookkeeping out first thing, Billing is something I think a lot of small MSP owners really struggle with, is getting the time to do billing and actually doing it properly and sitting through it. And then things like admin tasks, things like that, just remove those things off your plate. And I think things would have been a lot different back then if I did that straight away.
That's interesting. So from what you're saying there is, if you'd been able to focus more on winning clients and servicing clients, because you didn't have to do all of those other things, then that would have, I'm guessing that would have made a bit of a difference to the business. Alex, I know you will have heard me say this, and for all of our listeners on the podcast and viewers on YouTube, this is a great phrase to live your life by, not just in your business, but in every aspect of your life. Here's the phrase: you should only do what only you can do. Let me say it again so you can get it tattooed on your head. You should only do what only you can do. And Alex, you've just given us a great example there. Can I give you a book suggestion, by the way? And this is something that I wish, I mean, this book didn't exist when I was 28, but if I wish it had, and I wish I'd read it, because my own business trajectory, which is, I've been going nearly 20 years, I would have got where I needed to get faster if I'd read this book or listened to this book. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X, written by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And I think it only came out a couple of years ago. They have a companion book called Who, Not How. And both of these books together are about making those big jumps. So, you going from being a one-man band to having your first employee, big jump, right? And then you letting go of admin and stuff, big jump. And the challenge goes as you grow the business, and I have no doubts whatsoever that you'll be a very successful business owner, Alex, because I've been watching you from the shadows for a number of years and seeing how you operate and how resilient you are and how you deal with problems. But the quicker that you can get used to, right, I need to lose all the admin, I need to lose all the billing, and then the next thing is I need to lose all the first line. That's going to come up for you soon, where all of your first line is being done by someone else, and then you've got to lose all the second line, and then there's going to come a day where you're going to lose all the third line, and you're just going to be looking after the clients, and then you're going to hand over the client management and the account management and then the selling, and then suddenly you have a great life where you're in your early 30s and you're making a fantastic income, and you choose what you do in the business rather than the business needing you to do stuff. So please do listen to that book. It really is a great book, and again, for all of our listeners and our viewers, I highly recommend that book as well. So what's the second thing, looking back, that you wish you'd done differently?
So the second thing is hiring sooner. I think, I've had highs and lows as, running the business, but I've been ultimately comfortable at, a same trajectory, just sitting there. So I think if I had, a hire, that would have made me go out there and sell, because I had someone to think about, someone to find the money for. That would have been the thing I wish I did sooner.
That's awesome. So what was it? Can you remember what the thinking was that stopped you from hiring help earlier? Was it that there wasn't the work there, or was it the concern about cash, or was it something else?
I think, it was, the work wasn't really there. There was enough for me to deal with. And I didn't think hiring someone was going to be the right choice because of the finances. We're pretty early on back then. And it was just paying for me, really. So I think if I was to hire someone, very early on, make sure I had, to get out there, go and sell, really make it uncomfortable. Because I think sitting comfortable has made me stagnate a little bit too much.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a huge insight into yourself. Once you've got a team, it gets a lot harder to sit and stagnate, because there's always, well, you know this already because you've now got a team. There's always new things to do and new things to try and new problems. And yeah, it kind of starts you off down. You start to build up momentum from there, which is great. Just out of interest, as a side note, where did you find that first employee?
Yeah, so Kian joined us through a T level. So in the UK, we've got the T level. I think they need to complete about 350 hours in a workplace environment. So he joined us from a local college. He kind of fit in really well, loved doing the tech stuff. And then it's been like a year-long training with me and him. And then at the end of his college, we offered him a position to stay with us. So I was quite lucky finding the right person. But the T levels, if you haven't looked into it, are very good.
That's great. Thank you. No, I personally, I don't know much about the T levels. So for MSPs in the UK, there's a great piece of advice there of where you can get some entry level technicians. Right. Third and final suggestion from you. What would you have done differently if you'd known over the last couple of years?
So when I first started, I took on any customer with a wallet. So long as, it could have been a one-man band, it could have been anything. So long as they had a wallet, that was what I was looking for. I think, going back and starting again, I would have made sure we had minimums, so user minimums or budget minimums. So let's say to start with us now, you need to spend over £1,000 a month. So that would have definitely grown the business a lot quicker because we were focusing on, say, a right size, a right sector that could also afford us as well. That would have changed everything back then. And it's only now as I'm starting to remove the ones that don't fit, it's just made me realize how different things are now to what they used to be.
Yeah, and the clients that are too small or don't contribute enough profit into your business, what problems does that cause?
So customers that don't meet your size, they can be quite controlling or they can be quite needy. They're not paying you, what your other customers are paying, and they're expecting a lot more from you for that sort of money they're paying, as well as they just don't value what you do. And I think it's just best to move them on to another company that will suit them better. And then that means you can focus on your high paying, your high profitable customers and give them the experience and customer service they need.
Yeah, I think this is so true. And I've heard this from so many MSPs. I've had this experience myself in business that, when you are desperate and you take anything, you end up, not always, but often you end up with crap. And you end up with crap that's unprofitable. There's cash coming in, which helps you to meet your commitments, but there's no profit left from that. In fact, that book I was talking about earlier, 10x is easier than 2x, there's a great quote in there where they compare a $500 customer to a $50,000 customer. So the $500 customer will come back asking about the contract and how many months before they can be released and what the terms are and the service delivery and how many meetings they'll have. And the $50,000 customer comes back and says, I've transferred the money. And when you see those kind of two comparisons on the page or you hear it in Audible, it's a great reminder that, just as you said there, Alex, not all customers are born equal. So I have to say, overall, this is awesome. You and I haven't had a proper catch up for ages, and it's great to hear that you've, 2, 3, 4 years in nearly, you're going in absolutely the right direction. You've made some great decisions. A lot of the things that MSPs can run for 10 to 15 years before they fix some of these things. I know a lot of one-man bands who got trapped in one-man band. They just never quite got that first employee and got them to stick. People who are still taking on rubbish clients, bad clients. So you're doing a lot of the right things, and bravo to you. We should get you back on in like 4 years' time to see, are you at your first million turnover yet? No pressure on you, Alex. So thank you for coming on. Let's just talk about one final thing before you go. And you mentioned at the start that you're also a consultant for Halo PSA. So tell us what kind of work you're doing with other MSPs and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So I started with Halo PSA 2 years ago. I bought it as, our PSA for my MSP. I was using like an email platform ticketing system before, but I wasn't tracking my billings, time spent on tickets and things like that. So I really didn't know where I was in the business. So, I moved over to Halo PSA. It was a good price. It's always improving. Like the amount of features it has now compared to when I started is just insane. It's just always growing. And, it's no bolt-ons as well. So, this sounds like a really good plug for them, but, I see a lot of other PSAs where you have to spend loads of money for like billing modules and all these other things where instead it's just all in one. So my work at the minute is like a third party consultant. So I started only recently in December with them. So, Halo PSA, I completely adore. It's really helped me connect with other MSPs, get to know them, show them a journey with the PSA and how they can get the best out of it for them.
Yeah, and someone at Halo PSA is driving along in their car right now with a big beaming smile on their face as you crowbarred in a free advert for them. So bravo on that. Well done. Alex, for those people that just want to connect with you, talk to you, just ask you about your experiences or indeed with Halo, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn. Just search Alex Harvey, and I'm wearing a purple top.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.